It's a very funny and painful look at a woman who was in a moment of chaos approaching an enormous change in her life, and that all of the garbage and rubbish that comes up from who you thought you'd be, having to face who you are to move on to who you might possibly become. And so we find Bernadette and her family, at that sort of moment of crisis. Maria Semple, and I think Rick in his screenplay has written something that is hilarious in its accuracy, but also it's quite painful and often embarrassing, confronting who you are. Bernadette is confounding. She's fiercely intelligent, hypercritical of the world around her. She's bewildered by Seattle. But I think even more bewildered by who she's become. And she's as critical and as savage on herself as she is on the world around her. Rick Linklater has a very particular way of working. A lot of it's about rehearsal. It's very much about casting for him, and so it doesn't really come to life until you're sort of with the other actors in the room talking about the backstories and what it might be. Bernadette has avoided thinking about 99% of who she is. She's thrown herself, she's experienced profound, deep, public, artistic failure. And I think that's someone that everyone can relate to. It doesn't have to be an artistic failure, but we sort of expect as adults that we will accept our failures and move forward, and she's not been able to move forward. The family unit is about to change. It's a very big thing when you've been in a long-term relationship and your child is about to move from childhood to adulthood, like B is about to go to boarding school. So their family unit is about to change. And I think that is something that she's also avoiding thinking about. She's going to have to confront her social anxiety. She's going to have to confront her child coming of age. And she's also going to have to confront that her marriage has been on autopilot. And she's also going to have to confront who she might have to become other than a mother complaining about Seattle. So I think she goes through enormous, tumultuous change, which is often hilarious and often quite painful and embarrassing. Bernadette is somebody who has no friendships, no social life, and so all of her B laughs at all of her jokes. B's the one who she tells all of her stories, and in a way, I think Bernadette's relying on B as being her friend rather than being her daughter. And part of the journey through the film is for Bernadette to accept that her daughter needs to have her own experiences and not, just become the receptacle of all Bernadette's needs. Bernadette and B have such a close relationship that, in a way, LG, as the father, has sort of just slowly been edged out of the picture. So part of the journey through the film is for the father and the daughter to re-find one another. There's a kind of a cataclysmic relationship that she has with her neighbour, and from her perspective, a do-gooder parent, the busybody parent at the school, Audrey, played by the extraordinary Kristen Wiig. Often the person that you have the most antagonistic relationship, you have a lot in common with, and I think that's a bit of a revelation for both of them. I think it's the moments in the film where you see Bernadette being, in a way, most herself. She can more freely talk about her fears and anxieties to a virtual assistant than she can to her husband of 20 years. And she has no friends, so there's not even any opportunity to divest herself of those anxieties and the anxiety of going to Antarctica and all of the stuff that she needs, and her rage at the neighbour and her rage at the parents at the school and her fear at disappointing her daughter. It's all directed to Manjula. It's not just, please go and pick up my laundry. It's, can you please take over the entire organisation of this trip to Antarctica, and I'm losing my mind at the same time. So it's a very, very strange relationship.